Are you having fun? Let's go into the race, right? So tell us about, the morning of and getting ready and the pontoon selection. What did that look like?
Day of the race, morning, it was a 10:15 a.m. start, which I kind of like that time. It doesn't give you too much time, but it gives you enough time in the morning. And yeah, I was ranked 45th. And so I didn't have much selection with the pontoon start. I was told that the right was going to be faster and everyone went right. So that probably was the case. So I ended up going more on the left because that was what was available. It was borderline wetsuit. I think the temp was 19.8 and it was quite hot outside as well. I am disappointed in my swim. I know I'm a better swimmer than that. If I just look at my swimming from last year versus this year, like I am a completely different person, right? Like I spent 7 years not swimming. So last year was my first year swimming again in 7 years. And this year I've seen huge improvements and that did not show on race day. I knew, in the swim, I remember swimming and thinking, I feel like I'm dead last. And that's when I came back to all my mental skills and said, okay, we're going to race now. We're going to judge later. And I've actually felt like that before in a race when I wasn't. I think I made the front pack and I felt like I was last. So, I think as well, this was a big field. There was more people in it. So I think the start list was 60 people. And so, if you're 20th, you could feel like you're last because you can see so many people in front of you. And, I kept trying to fight, trying to continue to move forward. And I had, I would say, one of my worst swims based on where I am. I was disappointed at the swim, but the reality, and I think I can swim better, but the reality is I didn't.
That's perfect. Tell us about the bike.
Yeah, so, I talked about the wind earlier and how it didn't feel windy. It didn't feel gusty, but it felt like almost the way the course was that there was a headwind everywhere. It was kind of like a crosswind everywhere. And when we were in that small group of three, I probably didn't help as much as I should have. And it felt really hard. And once we got caught by that pack behind, I remember this course is interesting where you can't really see much. There's not like a huge out and back, but there is this one section at the big roundabout by the Ferris wheel where you could see a group when we were turning on, and there was one lap when we could see the group and we're like, oh my gosh, we can catch that group in front of us. And that's when our group, I think, started working really well together, and we were able to catch that group in front of us. And as soon as we caught that group in front of us, which took a while, I think it took 3 or 4 laps at least to catch that group. And it was, pretty solid riding to catch up. And I think that's when we kind of held our time to the front pack. Then we caught that, we'll call it the second chase pack. Then I knew like positioning was really important with these tight corners and some of the technical bits for that section of the course. So, it was a lot about positioning, and we were able to, I think I saw time splits, but I didn't see time splits to the front group until we were kind of settled into that group. And at that point, like the first time check I saw was 2 minutes, and I never saw it go above 2:15, and I never saw it go, I think at one time I got a time split that was like 1:58, and so we kind of held it there to the leaders, which I think is something that in past races I haven't been able to do. That was good. And I honestly, I never thought the race was over. I feel like I have a lot of tools in my toolbox, and definitely not where I wanted to be on the swim or ending the bike, but I did feel like I could make some sort of ground in the run.
Before we get to the run, I thought from the camera, what they would show of your guys' group, technically you were riding a lot better. Did you feel that as well?
I mean, we've talked about this, Pat. Yeah, I think that was one of my best races that I've rode technically. I've done a ton of work. Actually, last year when I started this campaign, one thing that I really wanted to execute on, I felt like one of my biggest weaknesses back in 2015, 2016 was how I rode technically. And so it's something that I've worked on every single week. And I feel like I actually saw benefit of that this race, which was, which I was very proud of and happy with. I was able to hold wheels and just ride really well technically.
Cool. Okay. Talk to us about the run.
Yeah, I started the run with high hopes. Our group came off, and I didn't know exactly what the time split was there, but I remember around the first lap, I was getting time splits every lap from someone from Team USA, Ryan Bolton. I'd asked him pre-race to give that, and he gave that. And I said, give them to me no matter what. If it goes out, if it goes down, like, I just want to know. And so I remember there was one lap where he had it went from 150 to 220, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing time to the leaders. But for me, it's all about in the run, am I doing the best I can right now in this moment? And, I was actually, while I was running, I had a couple people sitting on, and I think if we were at the front of the race, I would have raced much differently, but I knew that I had to push the pace. And so I didn't mind that I was dragging people up, because I just knew I needed to do everything possible to try to catch as many people as possible.
Cool. And you ended up, on the day, 15th, you had the second fastest run split. Compare that to, your results last year.
If we're looking at WTCS results from last year, yeah, it was I think if I would have gotten 15th last year at a WTCS, I would have been thrilled. At this time last year, I got lapped out in a WTCS. And so, yeah, huge improvement, and yet not where I want to be. But I am still having fun. I don't want to quit. I didn't end the race. I've ended races before where I've just been I just need to quit. This isn't fun. I don't like this, whatever the reason. And I don't feel like that. It was an interesting race because it had the outcome pressure of top 3 was an automatic selection for the US team. So I think that is clouding a lot of how I analyze the race. And if I actually go back to the things that I analyze the race based on, mostly, most races I go back and I analyze it based on processes, based on, I have these, my race plan never says to get first. That's not my race plan. So if I actually go through and see what I executed on my race plan, I actually did a lot of stuff well that I can be proud of. So that's sure, I'm having fun. All right, that was I hope you guys enjoyed that race recap. A little bit harder for me to probably give a race recap for that sort of race. So hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for following along. And as soon as I know, I think a lot of questions I've been getting online, and I'm sorry to people who I haven't responded to. And Pat can attest to this, I just kind of put my phone away. So I haven't responded to a lot of people, but a lot of questions that I've seen have been what's next? And to be perfectly honest, I don't know what's next. There's kind of a gap in racing right now. So there's a lot of races actually this weekend, but I'm not going to race this weekend. So don't know what's next, but when I do know, I will update you guys.